good evening, everybody. Chris McDonald on this Thursday night, the 25th day of April, 2024. We're always grateful to have old friends back with us, and I would say bald friends, but he's not on camera tonight, so I can't see his reaction. So I'll just say old friend for right now. Good to see you, Eric Caron. How are you, brother?
Good to be on with you, Chris. I'm still better looking than you. You know that.
Well, that don't take much. I'm just saying. I mean, that don't take much, brother.
Yes,
It doesn't take much to be better looking than me. So I wouldn't be bragging too hard about that. But hey, it's good to see you tonight, and we're on the as obvious. We don't have Eric on the camera tonight. We got him on the phone, but he's just as good. Hey man, I hadn't seen you in a long time. You have been all over this world, and we got a lot to talk about. I do want to, first of all, ask you, and I just want to say this: Eric's website, folks, is switchedonlife.com. Great book. If you've never read it, I would encourage you to get it. It's a tremendous story of Eric's service to our country as a former federal agent. You have been over to Africa, but when you get back and you're watching all these protests, I got to get your opinion on a couple of things at the start, and then we'll get into the meat of why we had you on tonight. What's your opinion about all these anti-Israel protests, buddy? And, since I've seen you, Iran and Israel had a little brush up. I thought about you. We were supposed to have Brad Johnson on tonight. Brad had something come up. He wasn't able to be with us. We're going to get him on next week. But you both have served in the field, but you have been sounding the alarm for a long time that Iran has always been our enemy, serious enemy, and she reared her head here last weekend. What's your thoughts on that? But by extension, these protests, Eric, look, our country is descending into a madness that I don't know if we're going to come back from, buddy. I tell you, these are weird times that we're living in. That you have American citizens burning Israeli flags, school kids burning Israeli flags on campuses, and Jews not being able to go to school to be safe. It's sort of crazy, ain't it?
It sure is, Chris. Thanks again for having me. And it's an opportunity for me to share my thoughts, and I appreciate it. And you and I I've been doing this with you for the last, 3 years maybe?
No, it's longer than that. It's going on 5, brother. We met in 2019. This will be our 5th year together this year, actually. We met in the summer of 2019 because that was our first CPAC.
Yes, sir. That's right.
So it's hard to believe it's been 5 years with you.
Yeah, it's gone quick. And, you and I feel, and there's others obviously out there, but I feel that, we're like Notre Dame as far as a prophet trying to explain to the American people and to the world what is happening all around us, and unfortunately very few people I think are listening, and I hope it's not too late as well, because we're seeing the ramifications of the Democrat Party, who's been at the helm for the last just three plus years. And we've seen what can happen to our nation in a short amount of time. And yes, I am very concerned about the protests going around that's happening here in America. People have to understand that our enemies are watching, are influencing these protests. And this makes America soft, even softer than we are already, because of the defund police and the soft on crime philosophy that the Democrat Party has been pushing these last 3 years. But Iran's watching every move, every day, all these protests. Their intelligence service is active here in America. They report back to the regime, if you will, in Iran, and this makes us look very soft, and we're very vulnerable to terrorist attacks. So it's unfortunate. It's happening in America. We got to wake up to the fact that, we are close to losing our democracy. And that's why I shared with you before I went on with you, Chris, that I'm an independent. I wrote an article that has not been published yet, but I'll share it firsthand with you and your audience. I asked a question in the article that has not been published yet. Is it time to outlaw the Democrat Party?
Yes.
Is it time to outlaw the Democratic Party? And I say, since January 2021, Joe Biden and the Democrat Party, masquerading as one of the two major contemporary political parties in the U.S., has been terrorizing America, attempting to destroy our freedoms. The party's ideology is directly responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of U.S. citizens. Let me just say this, Chris. The Federal Bureau of Investigation defines terrorism as, listen carefully, as the unlawful use of force and violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government, the civilian population, or any segment thereof in furtherance of political or social objectives. That sounds like the Democrat Party, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And that's the definition of terrorism.
Yes, it does.
And I give specific examples in my article that has not been published yet as to how the actions that the Democrat Party, under the leadership of Joe Biden, what they've done these last 3 years to terrorize and kill Americans. It's about time, in my humble opinion, it's about time we discuss the outlawing of the Democrat Party. And people will say, oh my God, Eric, do you understand? You hear what you're saying? That would never happen. I'm asking the question, but I think it's about time our elected officials start talking about outlawing the Democrat Party. As you know, around the world, Chris, and I've traveled around the world, and in countries, for instance, in the Middle East and in Europe, if there's a party that's attempting to overthrow or terrorize the country, they will outlaw and sanction that party to prevent it from operating in the country, from raising funds for the organization. We need to do the same thing. We have to understand the stakes are high. And right now, again, we can go into details later, Chris, but I give specific examples what the Democratic Party has done to deserve to be outlawed.
All right, let me ask you this, and I'm with you. I'm with you 1,000%. Of the things that in this article that you're about to publish, what is the most grievous thing? And I'll just throw my 2 cents into this, Eric. I believe there's two great things that I see happening. Number one is the invasion into the privacy of the lives of American citizens, and this lawlessness that they have allowed to, they've winked at the lawlessness of the left. They've prosecuted the right for anything they can find, spitting on the sidewalk, jaywalking, or anything else, and they yet they let lawlessness go in our streets. They allowed Black Lives Matter, Antifa, George Floyd protesters to burn cities down in 2020, but yet now Trump's sitting there fighting for his life, his political life, his personal life, on trumped up charges about a prostitute that nobody in God's green earth or hell below would have brought had it not been for Donald Trump being Donald Trump. But that is number one. Number two is the abortion. I've never seen a party that promotes baby killing up to and beyond the 9th month without any kind of blush. They don't even pause, Eric. They don't care. And I'll just add number three, these wars. I'm going to ask you a blunt question. We had James Akers on Monday night or Tuesday night, And he made a statement to me that I heard it. When I heard it, I sort of didn't respond on air, but inwardly I was sort of gulping. But he believed that this thing with Israel and Iran, there are forces behind the scenes that are almost hoping for a global war over there, Eric, to pull the United States into another conflict. And I just think these Dems are baiting us up for war. I do. I think that they are salivating. They are just salivating to get America into a conflict to fund their war machine. Now, those are my three. What's Eric Harris' three?
Well, thank you, Chris, for you've made some great points, all very legitimate points. I talk a little bit about some of those points that you made. I think out of the article, it's not a very long article, but one of the areas I highlight is the Democratic Party has weaponized the Department of Justice and various U.S. intelligence agencies to limit speech, intimidate, or coerce political opponents. And the examples, the documented unlawful spying of Donald Trump.
Yes.
The unprecedented ongoing prosecutions of the former U.S. president, currently a U.S. candidate for president, colluding with social media outlets to prevent or limit free speech by U.S. citizens concerning Black Lives Matter, concerning diversity, equity, and inclusion, including COVID-19 data and its origins, within the Wuhan laboratory that the U.S. government funded. I think the weaponization of our Department of Justice and our intelligence agencies by the Democratic Party is grounds for the party to be debarred or to be outlawed or sanctioned, if you will. And I mean, these are facts. This is not me making these up.
Right.
These are, in fact, what has happened. And you know what, Chris? Over the course of the next few years, you and I will talk in about 2 years from now, whatever, or less, and it's all going to come to light, even more so. The onion is being peeled back. We're just at the second layer. We got to get to the fourth and fifth layer before we see everything right now. Right now, all we know is what's been publicized. And I'm pretty certain, based on my training, my experience with the government and what I did, more and more unfortunately, of the weaponization of the Department of Justice and our intelligence agencies by Barack Obama, by Joe Biden, is going to come out, and it's not going to be good. So that's one of the major issues. And of course, the defund police and what's happened to our law enforcement agencies across America. Of course, the open borders, turning the U.S. Border Patrol into the U.S. Welcome Patrol, and allowing criminals and suspected terrorists to come into America. I mean, the Democratic Party, the ideology concerning U.S. border security is aiding and abetting transnational crime groups, Chris, the Mexican cartels, and the 60-plus terror groups designated by the U.S. Department of State. You and I just talk about the highlights: Al-Qaeda, Hamas, ISIS, and Boko Haram. There's 60-plus groups out there operating, Chris.
That's true. Let me ask you this, and I'm with you. Look, I don't hear anything that I disagree with whatsoever, but I do. This is not even playing devil's advocate, but I've got to ask, because you made cases against the Democrat Party, and I didn't even put Democratic Party on the title tonight, because it's not democratic, but by no stretch of the imagination. But
I know
we got another party that's in power in the country too, Eric, and the Republicans need to be let off the hook, because they are just behind the Dems, and they do a lot. What I look at it this way is this: what you said the Democrat Party's doing, they're doing this overtly. They are doing it in your face.
Yep. Yep.
No kind of remorse. Yep. They are basically saying blank you to the American people.
And covertly, Chris, and covertly.
And covertly. But the Republicans are doing it more covertly. They're doing it by allowing these people to do it with a wink and with a nod, Eric. And I'm just curious, which is worse? I think the Republicans are worse because they could stand up to this stuff if they wanted to. Correct?
Yeah, you're right. But you know why? Everybody, just like my friends and associates, not everybody, but a lot of them. And I just had a conversation relating to this today, but everyone's afraid. Everybody's afraid to be demonized, labeled as an extremist, MAGA, concerned about their jobs and contracts. And I think the the Republican Party, you're right, many of them are just sitting on their hands and not getting engaged and afraid to fight. Fight in a political way, not in a physical way, but fight. And yes, you've seen a handful of Republicans stand up for what's right. But unfortunately, most politicians, right, left, center, are concerned more about their next election than the country. And I made a conscious effort a few years back, Chris, that I knew it was going to cost me personally future jobs if I come out of the closet and speak my mind, speak my truth. And it has. I can tell you, I've not gotten certain positions, certain jobs because of my political views and my writings. It's unfortunate. And I think a lot of Republicans are afraid that if they speak their minds, they're afraid they're going to be labeled as an extremist.
But let me ask you this, buddy, and I understand your plight. You're in the almost private sector right now, Eric. You're in the private sector, but these people are elected. We're electing the Republicans to go up there and fight for us. And look, I listen to the comments. We do question and answers on this show usually on the weeknights, and look, it's a theme. I see the theme in the questions. People are fed up, and they are very disillusioned with government. They're disillusioned with our leaders. They're disillusioned with both parties. They're disillusioned with the fact that we are getting spied on, that we are getting screwed over at the gas pumps, in the grocery store. We are basically giving free education, free housing to illegals. We're treating our veterans like we've never treated them before in a very bad kind of way. We've got a nation that is teetering on moral decadence that we've never seen before because we've got no spiritual leadership in the White House. And look, I don't expect Joe Biden nor Donald Trump to be the pastor-in-chief of the country, but there is a level of morality, at least, that you expect your president to have and respect life and respect things that are godly. And this president has basically stuck his middle finger up and to blank you to the Creator, blank you to God, blank you to everything. But my point I'm trying to sort of get across and get your take on this is, where's the remedy for this? Because I'm with you that the Democrat Party needs to be addressed, but do we not address that at the voting booth? And Eric, if the people want this, like if the people don't go out and vote, and they are lazy, and I'm not saying everybody out here that's listening to us tonight is lazy, because this is a good audience, but let's just be frank with each other. The American public at large, they are in zombie land right now because they're more concerned about what's going to happen on American Idol tomorrow night, or their latest soap opera, or what the gossip and the crap is on Facebook, and this and that and the other, and that's all they care about. It's become a National Enquirer, tawdry, garbage, toxic universe of media and the universe of information that goes out, instead of understanding we're on the brink of the absolute collapse of civilization. I don't know if people understand that tonight. We are teetering on something that I don't think any of us have seen in our lifetime. I sure haven't. And look, I knew it was going to get bad. I'm a man of faith, and I'm looking for the return of my Savior. and he's coming soon. And I will tell you this: I know, and I've always known things are going to get bad before Christ comes back. But, buddy, I tell you what, witnessing this in real time right now, it's got me shaking my head every day of my life. And it's got even, you're out there in the field, buddy. You seeing this more than I am. I'm sitting sort of in the cheap seats feeling this. You're on the ball field playing it.
I am. And you're right. We have issues at home domestically. We have issues internationally, for sure. And we're gonna domestically. We got progressive, liberal, Democrat mayors, district attorneys, and judges have turned our cities into war zones by refusing to enforce our laws, and tens of thousands of U.S. citizens have been raped and maimed and murdered, resembling a third world nation, which I just came back from, Malawi. And it's unfortunate. And we're going to ask police officers, as we are tonight, to be gentle with protesters. And God forbid if something serious happens, like maybe one of the police officers has to use force and maybe one of these protesters dies, or, we're going to demonize the police all day long.
Right.
And then internationally, Chris, we got the Democrat Party has agreed to provide aid and comfort to nations that have vowed to destroy America, such as Iran and Afghanistan. I mean, we've talked about this before. Afghanistan has a suicide brigade. They have established 30 jihad madrasas, 30, or religious schools teaching suicide bombers and children and kids how to kill. 30 of them. This is not Eric Caron talking. This is in a recent report that I read. 30 jihad madrasas for future terrorists of Afghanistan. You know where they're going. They're not staying in Afghanistan. They're traveling to Europe, and they're traveling here. And so, there's dozens of terror groups have found safe haven in Afghanistan. We are supporting, the U.S. government is supporting the Taliban. They're providing safe haven to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And right now, the latest numbers I saw were 20,000 combined Al-Qaeda and ISIS members in Afghanistan alone, 20,000. And foolishly, the Biden State Department objective is to, this is a quote, build functional relationships with the Taliban to advance U.S. objectives. So you're right, Chris, America is in deep trouble tonight, both domestically as well as internationally.
Spiritually, too. Let me ask you this. We got about 15, 20 minutes here. Man, the time with you always just, when you come on this show, I'm sitting here talking, I look down, we've already gone 40 minutes. It's crazy. Hey, but I got to ask you a question about your trip to Africa, because you have encountered some, I think a lot of people are unaware, Eric, of the dangers that lurk. And definitely America's got issues tonight, but the dangers that are lurking in that dark continent are great. And you've made a lot of trips. You went to Malawi this past trip, and you're always in our prayers here, brother. And you're like a brother to me. You just like my own flesh and blood brother. I pray for you as such too. And but I want you to share what you can with what's brewing over there tonight, because that's a hotbed for this jihadi terrorism. I know that people look at the Middle East as being, the ground zero, but I think Africa is ground zero A, because Africa has got some. Yep. It's being taken over by jihadism more and more every day, and people are not aware of this, and they need to be. And it's people like you that keep us aware. Tell us what's going on over in that continent.
Well, we know there's been, in the last, 18 months or so, there's been overthrows, Malawi. I'm sorry, Mali, M-A-L-I-E, M-A-L-I, how do you, not Malawi. I'm trying to, Mali. Oh God, you probably can Google it.
Malawi. It's Malawi. Yeah.
And so there's been about a half a dozen countries, Chris, that have been overthrown by extremists, and of course, Sudan right now is in the midst of a civil war. Two generals are fighting in Sudan. There's about 6 million people starving in Sudan. There's 21 shadow wars going on that the U.S. government is directly involved in Africa. 21 shadow wars in 21 nations fighting extremists, and that's Al Qaeda, ISIS, Boko Haram, and the other, alphabet terror groups in Africa. And of course, throw in the Russians, throw in the Chinese, and it's a hotbed of a continent. And yes, relating to China, they have a footprint in pretty much every African nation, as they do here, trying to, get major contracts for roads and bridges. And they want to dominate the world, of course. And right now, the U.S. has been allowing this to happen. In Malawi, I saw firsthand, they have major projects going on. Corruption is at the highest levels in most of African nations, where the president of most African nations are in the pockets of the Chinese, the Russians. And they, influence the country as a whole. I mean, China owns pretty much Malawi. The Chinese embassy is as big as the presidential palace in Malawi. The Chinese government built the parliament in Malawi. They have an orphanages in Malawi where people can look at Buddha in Africa, and they basically take local kids and they indoctrinate them in Buddhism and martial arts and in the language and culture. And of course, they use these kids in various means for various purposes. So Africa is on fire, Chris.
Yes, it is. How much is it just one country, or are they taking over Africa like they're taking over the rest of the world right now?
Continent. Yeah, for sure. The continent, for sure.
Yeah.
They have their footprint fingers and criminal activities, from wildlife trafficking to drug smuggling. They're partnering with terror groups to assist them in activities, especially in Mozambique. Parts of Mozambique is controlled by ISIS, and the Chinese are working with ISIS to support their criminal activities, to get products to the ports and onto ships.
Yep.
So it's a very dangerous situation, and right now America is distracted. And let me just say, Chris, and this is something for you to think about and your audience. We've been so distracted with Donald Trump. We have not been discussing the fact that we have a president who's corrupt.
Yes.
No one's talking about the Joe Biden crime family, have they?
They haven't.
Been in the last month or so. I don't know. All we've been talking about is Donald Trump and the trial in New York, or any other criminal cases he has going on. The media is not speaking about a sitting president who enriched himself by using his office.
Yes.
So That's what we should be talking about. We have a sitting president, unfortunately, who's corrupt. I said this to you probably over a year ago when this all came out. Follow the money, and as a money laundering expert, the evidence has come out. More of it will come out because banks are required to keep records and documentation, and they did, and they have a slew boxes of evidence against our sitting president relating to the fact that he used his office to enrich himself and his family hundreds of millions of dollars. That's corruption at the highest levels. But we're speaking about Donald Trump relating to misdemeanors and or crimes, if you will, alleged crimes that have never been brought before. But we're not talking about Joe Biden.
That's true, buddy. That's absolutely true. Folks, you're watching a very special McFiles Thursday night with our dear friends Eric Caron. Friends, I said plural. What, you got imaginary friends now? It's friend Eric Caron.
The one and only.
The one and only, man. SwitchedOnLife.com.
Switched On Life. That's right.
Yeah.
Switched On Life. And Chris, one thing I've been doing when I do travel, believe it or not, besides doing some work on the side, I'm always doing lectures relating to what does it mean to live a switched on life. So even in darkness, we can see a path to greatness. So I'm putting it out there again to you and your audience tonight. I'm available as a guest lecturer, talking about the switched on philosophy. So even in darkness, we can see a path to greatness.
Yeah.
So anybody can hit me up on my website, switchedonlife.com. You can hit me up and send me a message, and I'd love to share with groups. I've been, from church groups to corporations, lecturing about how do we make good decisions, because we have not been making good decisions because we're not switched on. I know you're
not in the political stuff as much as you are the international stuff, but I got to ask you this question.
Yeah.
This travesty of a spending bill that we just got from the Congress, where we give another $86 billion to the Ukraine. You'll have to get me to eat some of that chowder to fill in the blank. And then we give Israel a measly $26 billion out of this spending bill. I mean, it's a travesty, man. What do you think of Johnson? I mean, does he not turn out to be a scumbag? I hate to use that word, but he's just turned out to be a rhino scumbag, hasn't he?
Yeah. Chris, the reality is, if Donald Trump was president, we would not be in this predicament where we were in the midst of a third world war. I mean, nobody, and I said this to you before, we don't want to talk about the third world war, but like we are in the second inning of a third world war, Chris.
Oh, that's true.
I don't need Washington to tell me to declare war. When Russia is doing its thing with Ukraine, and Europe is on fire, and then we have the Middle East on fire, when we have Iran basically they've vowed the destruction of Israel and the U.S., they've declared war against us. We just haven't declared war against them. And listen, again, we're in the second inning of a world war. Like, I'm not saying that. Listen, I got skin in the game. I have a son in the Navy, so I'm not wishing for World War III.
That's right, buddy. I know.
We're all big boys and girls here. The truth of the matter is, yes, we're in the beginning stages of a World War III. And if Donald Trump was president, we wouldn't be in this predicament we are in today. And yes, I agree, Chris. I stop funding Ukraine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry. All the money we're giving Ukraine, for the most of it, I'm telling you, is being flushed down the toilet.
Oh, we're extorting. And I don't doubt that Zelensky knows something on the Biden crime family, and I think that he's he is extorting and blackmailing this country. And and again, I'm with you. If Trump's in there, this ain't happening. This ain't going to happen. He wouldn't sign that deal. But the Republicans, Eric, are going to have to step up and get a set of balls on them. They just do, and I don't see it, man. I just don't see it, folks. Let me do a house cleaning issue. If you got a question or two, we can't keep Eric long. It's past his bedtime already. I mean, he's nursing home. The nursing home is already giving the lights out signal to him. He's got to get in bed here. We're going to have so much fun when I get back up there to see you. We hadn't seen each other in a while, man. We got to catch up. It's good to see you tonight.
How do I, listen, how do you think I keep this pretty face? By making sure I moisturize. I got a 10-step process before I go to bed, so it takes me about an hour. And, I got to do it so I can keep the pretty face. So I'm in bed by 10 o'clock.
I know, man. You got to keep that head bald too, don't you, man?
Yes.
Hey, Chris Sjogren's got a good comment. She says, I knew when the Dems didn't put up a fight to bring Mike Johnson in as Speaker, it was going, it was not going to go your way to be good. And honestly, the point is, and I've had a lot of people ask me this question, and somebody in South Dakota asked me over the weekend, Amy Miller did. She said, do you think that we may have made a mistake getting rid of McCartney? Look, McCartney had his problems, Eric, but we've exchanged McCartney for a worse speaker, honestly. I mean, Johnson's done far worse. And I'm not saying, Eric, that McCartney would have done any better, but her point's well taken. I mean, and again, this is the leadership of our country right now. And if we don't get some political leadership, buddy, it ain't going to matter what happens in this nation. We ain't going to have a nation because it all starts with leadership, and we just ain't got none right now.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying. I mean, I don't know the speaker. We all, it's political, so there's going to be compromise, right? And he's probably thinking he's got to compromise with the White House and the Biden administration to keep the government open, and maybe certain things were said behind the scenes. If you don't do X, Y, and Z, we're going to make your life miserable. The Republican Party, we're going to shut it down. Whatever was said, Johnson felt compelled enough to push this forward. But yeah, I mean, I think it takes a strong leader, and right now the party's not strong. The Republican Party's not strong, unfortunately. It's divided, and that's one. Say what you want about the Democrat Party, they're pretty unified for the most part. I know there's been some talk and what have you, but the Republican Party is not unified.
Yeah. Well, it's good. There's a good question here from Cora Aguilar in Facebook tonight, and her question is spot on. Eric, where's the money coming from? Are we not running out of money? I mean, it's just like we just keep printing the money and we keep doing this, and it's not a bad question. And where in the hell are we getting the money to send to them?
That's a good question. I mean, listen, the inflation is through the roof, right?
Yeah.
And it ain't going to get any better anytime soon.
I got an excellent question for you from Harley Guy. He says, Eric, who in your opinion is the lead terror group in our country? That's an excellent question. I'm going to get back to the money question after this, but that question sort of popped up just now, and I didn't want you to get off the show without answering that. That's a great question.
Well, it is a good question. I think I hate to say there's a few, but God, Joe Biden is aiding in abetting the Mexican cartels. They're the terror group, and what's terrorizing America right now is all the drugs coming into America, and the fentanyl and the death and destruction that's happening throughout this nation. We know, on average, there's about 100,000 deaths a year, and many more deaths relating to homicides and murders relating to drugs. So the Mexican cartels and narco-terror groups that are operating in Mexico and here in America, because their cells, we just talk about, Al Qaeda, ISIS. Of course, they're here, but the number one, really, my eyes and my experience, the Mexican cartels should be labeled as a terror organization, should be sanctioned, and we should sanction, I think, the 6, 7 of the known cartel groups.
Yeah.
6 or 7. I forgot the exact number. There's either 6 or 7 cartels.
Okay.
I mean, the Mexican cartels should be sanctioned as a state sponsor of terror. But for whatever political reasons, we haven't done that. So tonight, it's the cartels that are partnering with U.S. criminals.
Okay.
From BLM to other gangsters who are destroying America. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people have died in the last 3 years because of the cartels and what they're doing. The U.S. government needs to sanction the cartels. They're a narco-terror group, yes, but we don't do it. Why? Because it comes back to money. Because the cartels control Mexico. I mean, the cartels have the president of Mexico in their pocket, along with 90% of the politicians in their pockets. And the U.S. government and businesses do business with Mexico at the tune of hundreds of billions with a B, Chris. From the Ford companies to the GEs to all the Fortune 500 companies. And that's why one of the major reasons we don't sanction the cartels, because they're so deeply embedded in the Mexican government and Mexican economy.
Wow. I'm going to go back to Corey Aguilar's question. Good to see you tonight, Corey. This question about the money, Eric, you mentioned the money and the resources that we're putting out. What in the world are we going to do when the money runs out? And look, we're in such debt right now. We're never going to pay this back. You mentioned your son. Yeah, they keep printing it. My son, my grandchildren, I got 3 boys, 3 grandkids. Your son's, about the same age as my youngest. And buddy, I tell you what, I don't know how long the war's going to tarry. And if me and you are taken off this world scene through death, this generation is behind us, and their kids and their kids after that, they screwed, buddy. They just screwed, because they ain't going to never pay this money back. We'll never pay this debt back.
Well, we're just starting to feel, Chris, we're just starting to feel the ramifications of this Democrat terrorist organization called the Democrat Party. We're just starting to feel it, meaning on the streets of our cities, where everyone's deathly afraid of getting raped or killed. And you can't go to the grocery store without dropping $100 for 5 items. Right. And so bread's going to cost you, whatever. Maybe, a few years from now, a loaf of bread may cost you $5 or $10. Who the hell knows?
Well, I tell you what, right now, a trip to Walmart, you better have your banker with you, or you're all your one, because you're going to have to write a big check. I'll put it like this. You're probably going to need the Brinks cash truck to follow you into Walmart to buy 6 things of grocery, 6, put half a bag of groceries on it. You better have the Brinks cash truck with you right now, right? Right. And it's funny, coming back from Malawi, when you go to Malawi and you do an exchange, you get you give them $100 bill, you get a stack of the Malawi money, because it's not worth much, and that's what America is becoming. Are we not? Dollar, you just I'm not to interrupt you, but are we not becoming a third world country here? We are literally becoming a third world country. We are, right in front of our faces, across this nation. From Boston to San Francisco. Yeah, San Francisco. That's right. That's the truth. We are. I mean, look at our cities. I mean, you and I have been hitting this drum, and
for the last warning people this was to come, and it's here. It is here. Our cities have been turned into, third world countries. Our economy is on life support. Our economy's on life support. Our schools, our educational system is failing across the board throughout this country. Well, I don't know. God, our health care, we're waiting. Most people probably have to wait months for surgery because the system is overloaded. Housing expenses. You can't buy a house in America these days unless you have two incomes at about, $400,000.
Well, Eric, you're right, and again, Jerome, the moron, what do you call him, the economic guy that makes the Fed head today, he basically came out and said that inflation is so bad that the interest rates ain't coming down for a while. He said he can't do it, and he said that it sort of overrides the fears of trying to get the economy going. He said, we can't get the economy going because everything's so high. He said, we're scared to. And
Exactly.
Corey Aguilar's other question about, do you see an economic crash coming? I'll answer that. Oh, yeah. I put a few vernaculars in front of that, but yeah, I do. If we don't get our act together, and see, again, I think Roger Hooker made a good comment. He made a good point. This is what he said. He said, at this point, Trump is not going to do anything to make America great anymore. He's going to have to rebuild a ash heap of a nation, Eric, and you can't do that in 4 years. There's no way he can do that in 4 years. And I get what Roger's saying, and that is what I've always been feeling as well, to a degree, that even if Trump came back tonight, okay, and he gets a head start on this, brother, I'm going to tell you something. This man is going to face a monumental issue, and he would not have had to face this had this crap in 2020 not taken place. And I don't want to get into that tonight, but we have seen the destruction of the United States of America by one man. It has been unreal what this president in power has done to this nation. And people have let him do it. People have let him do it. The Democrat Party's let him do it, exactly.
And that's the Elizabeth Warrens, that's the whole crew of our liberal, progressive, elected Democrat individuals who have circled the wagon and said, we will push all our from diversity, equity, and inclusion to open borders, to BLM. We will push that as hard as we can. And they have. And they've been successful. They've been, hats off to the Democrat Party because they've raped and killed many Americans. Thousands, Chris. It's not just like hundreds. How many people in the last 3 years have died because of the open border? Thousands, tens of thousands of people. And that people, it's not just homicide. It's not just murder. What about vehicular homicide? Your father's driving home and he gets hit by a drunk driver. The drunk driver happens to be from Guatemala illegally.
Yeah.
Well, my father would still be alive if this Guatemalan who's an alcoholic wasn't here in America. So I'm telling you, Chris, thousands of people have died. So isn't it time we outlaw the Democrat Party? I'm not saying the Republican Party is much better. But right now, because Joe Biden's at the tip of the spear, he's leading the party, they're terrorizing America. They're terrorizing and causing the deaths of America. And I think the definition of terrorism, the unlawful use of force and violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce the government, the civilian population, or any segment thereof in furtherance of political or social objectives, sounds like the Democrat Party to me.
Well, let me say this. Susan French just made a comment earlier tonight. She says they're treating American seniors much worse than they are criminals. And Eric, it's not just look at the two classes of people that this party has targeted. the seniors and the babies.
Yeah.
And that's two of the most vulnerable groups in our nation. Two of the most vulnerable groups in our nation.
Yeah. You're right.
Seniors are at an age that, unless their kids are taking care of them, and many of them's kids are not, they have nobody to fight for them. And then the babies certainly don't have anybody to fight for them. You think about it. It's sinister. And her point is spot on. And they are treating them. You got them throwing grandmas in jail, buddy, that's standing outside just singing Amazing Grace in front of an abortion clinic and claiming that they're a threat to national security, bro. I mean, that's coming from the Democrat-run machine. It's a regime. The late Rush Limbaugh, when Obama was in office, he called it the regime. And it's about the truth of it. Hey, man, we got about 5 minutes. It's been a good Thursday night with you as always. All right, when are you going back out again? When are you going back out again?
I'm not sure. You know, I may be going to East Africa with, Bol Guy Dang.
Yeah,
Bol,
we need to get Bol back on.
Bol is running for president. He's trying to get his name on the ballot in South Sudan. Myself and others have been helping him. There are some politicians in Washington who finally waking up to the issues of Sudan and the corruption and the war in Sudan, and the spillover into South Sudan. And there's hope that there will be election in December of this year. But realistically, is anyone's guess because of the corruption at the highest levels in South Sudan. But so we may be going back to East Africa and shaking some hands, because there's a lot of South Sudanese individuals in UN camps in Uganda, Congo, Ethiopia, and Egypt, Kenya. So that may be my next trip. I'm not sure. You know what, Chris? I'm happy to be back in the U.S. and I think that's, for me, one of the eye openers for me when I come back home, when I see what's happening to my country and where I just left, and the poverty and the corruption. I'm proud to be an American, but we collectively need to understand that freedom isn't free, and the placard on the Statue of Liberty says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." It doesn't say, "Give us your criminals and your terrorists."
Actually, right, brother. Come on, man. Come on.
And the Democrat Party, has twisted it around to say, "Give us your criminals and give us your terrorists." That's not right.
It's not right, bro.
And
it's not right.
It's got to change.
It's got to change, and if it don't, I don't know. Hey, buddy, listen, I appreciate you. SwitchedOnLife.com is his book. Are you still giving away those flashlights and hats and stuff?
Well, they're up. The hats are for sale. The book is on the website, and Amazon. Truthfully, Amazon has the book and has the audio book for those who like to listen to books. The audiobook, again, is phenomenal.
Is it for somebody like me that can't read past a third grade level, so I could listen to it and understand it? Is that what you're... Are you trying to insinuate I can't read or something, Caron?
I made it just for you. I kept the KISS philosophy. You know what KISS stands for, right?
I'm afraid...
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid. Okay, yeah. Okay, I got you.
So I listen, I'm a simple man, and I try to do that in writing the book and doing the audio book, and I sprinkled in some good music in most of the chapters.
I'll have to go check that out. I'll have to check that out. Well, I just want you to know your neighbor she still tells me, that 84-year-old lady across the street tells me to tell you to stop shining that light into her house every night. So just to understand, I'm just trying to look out for you, man.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
Buddy, I appreciate you. Listen, I got to see you soon. It's been a long time. Listen, all jokes aside, you're one of the best guests we always have. We got so many great guests. I mean, look, we've got some good, solid people that come on this network, Eric, and you're right up there at the top, and I appreciate you. And I do appreciate your service to our country. I joke around with you a lot. It's because we're bros. We're brothers, and we can do that. But deep down, you know that you've got my utmost respect, and I know you got the utmost respect of this audience, and we appreciate you coming on here. And you be safe, bro, and I hope to see you before you get to Africa again, and we'll talk. We'll get you back on the show at least. I do want us to do a panel, maybe get you and Brad or you and some other folks together, but we'll talk about that. Maybe get you and Bing like we did that night, and we'll talk about that soon. But listen, I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, and there'll be more to obviously talk about in the months ahead. Again, I think people need to understand that we have a president who's corrupt, and that's really, unfortunately, should be the lead story, not Donald Trump relating to alleged misdemeanors.
That's true, buddy. That's true.
And so, God bless you, and God bless your audience, and it's always a pleasure to come on with you, Chris, and share my thoughts. And thank you for your courage to do what you do as well, because I know, it's not easy for you as it's not easy for me to share the truth. And, there's ramifications to do that. And, so thank you for hosting and what you do.
Buddy, I appreciate you much. SwitchedOnLife.com. I'll see you soon, and we'll be in touch. All right.
Thanks, brother. God bless.
Eric, Caron, everybody, God bless you, buddy. Put some fire in that house for him tonight. What a good guy. It's my dear buddy, my brother. He says he's better looking than me, but I got more hair than he does. But that's my buddy. He is a bro of bros, and he's out there fighting the fight. There's a lot of things he does overseas he can't talk about, but he's still trying to protect our country, even as a private citizen in the private sector. And I appreciate Eric very much for what he's done. And him and Bowl Dean, we need to pray for Bowl. We need to get Bowl back on the program. We've had him on last year. Bowl was running for president of Sudan against a tidal wave of Islamic jihadism in that nation in East Africa right now. Folks, Africa's about to go up in smoke. While we're dealing with the things we're dealing here in America domestically, our country is definitely, as Eric said, we're facing a lot of serious issues. There's no doubt about it. But the world at large tonight, folks, is in a place that it's just not good. I want to just comment on a few comments that I saw in the House tonight, and I want to say there's a couple of you that made the comment, and I'm not going to call you name. I'm just reading some of the comments, but I want to tell folks, and I'm saying this, it's just not a scold. It's not a scold. It's just an encouragement. I know it's easy to get cynical, folks, about voting. I know that some of you think, well, my vote don't count. They've rigged the vote. They've done this. They've done that. Well, I don't care what they've done. We don't quit fighting. And we don't quit voting. And we don't throw our hands up and take a cynical, defeatist attitude. Because if you're a person of faith, we march to a different drum than that cynical, toxic, ugly world out there tonight. We keep our focus upward. Upward. And we keep our focus on God. And we do what we're called to do, regardless of what that world tries to do. And I'm going to tell you, folks, I love y'all, but you better hear me. If we take this defeatist, cynical attitude and say, well, my vote don't count, and we sit our backsides on the seat of do nothing come November, then we do not get a right, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, and this is not a scold, it's Thursday night, and that South Dakota air that I breathed in over the weekend still in my system. You ain't got a right to complain about a blanking thing if you don't go vote. I don't care what they try to do. Folks, there are enough people in this country still to make a difference for good if we'll do it. And yes, it's an uphill battle. Yes, I am not naive. I didn't fall off some South Georgia turnip trunk yesterday and not believe that there's malfeasance and evil and all sorts of ugly, nasty things that are going on. And don't think I'm not aware that there's forces that want to cause false flags and all this other nonsense and all this stuff. We don't lose faith. And we keep fighting. And we fight the good fight of faith. And we keep believing. We keep believing. I can't promise you that it's going to fix a thing. I can't promise you there's going to be a rose garden at the end. I can't promise you any of that tonight, and I wouldn't do that if I could. But I'm going to tell you something. Our nation depends on people like listen to this network. It really does. And if we throw our hands up and we get cynical and we get down and out and we get sort of downcast and we're going to just throw the towel in and not vote because our vote don't count, that's exactly what they want. That's what they want. That's what they want. And so forth. So forth. And anyway. It's not about getting rid of a group, folks. If you got rid of every Muslim in America tonight, our problems would still remain. The other comment I want to address, somebody said, well, God can fix this in a day. He can. He could. But I have to tell you, it's not how God works. It's not how God works. God works through his people. God works through his people. And if his people are not on board with what God wants for a nation, then God's hands are literally tied. It's not that he can't do it. God can do anything. And the comment is right on the surface that Trump can't fix it, but God can fix it. Well, of course God can fix it. I got to ask a question tonight, though. I ask this question all the time when I hear that. Do we really want to know the price of what it would take to fix this country? There ain't no pixie dust going to fall out of heaven on us, folks. See, that's where the church has failed the country. Because that's what the church is trying to convince the nation of tonight, that it don't matter where we are spiritually, that God can come to the rescue on a white horse and he's going to ride his chariot down and he's going to sprinkle pixie dust from sea to shining sea, and all of America's problems are going to be fixed overnight. They're not going to be. Nope. If anything, folks, if this nation does not repent soon, corporately, it starts with the church, starts with God's people, it starts with us. There's not a humbling. If there's not a humbling of our leadership, if this baby killing continues, if the things that we're doing morally and politically, and the list could go on tonight, folks. We cannot keep going down this road like we're going without a response from heaven. And that response ain't going to be pixie dust. God don't operate in pixie dust. God is a God of the nations. And empires of the past, folks, have done far less than we've ever done, and they were destroyed because of it. What we're doing tonight is bad, but you know what makes our sin worse? What makes it even triply worse is we're doing what we're doing against light. These other empires of the past, they were enlightened, yes, but they were not as enlightened as America. America has been one of the most blessed nations on this earth. We have had the most freedom of any nation on this earth. This nation has never experienced a time when you can't worship God freely. People can worship God. They can worship the God they want to. And I'm going to tell you something, America's choosing not to worship God. It's worshiping mammon. and it's worshiping every idol it can find. It's worshiping false gods. It's worshiping false religion. False religion is running rampant all over the place, and it is absolutely insane, the spirit that is invading America tonight. God gives nations free choice and free will. I think James Akers said it Monday night. Some people didn't agree with it, but McDonald is on the Akers train. He was absolutely right. Nations get the leaders they ultimately want. So when we're railing on that world out there tonight, everybody else, just a word of friendly McFile advice tonight. And I'm saying this very calmly. Maybe we need to take a look in the mirror. Maybe the enemy is not the Muslims and all the other people that we claim are our enemies. Maybe the enemy's in us and what we've chosen to allow to run over roughshod on our nation. Just a thought. There ain't no pixie dust coming, folks. There ain't no pixie dust coming. It's going to take a will and a change of course in this nation, and we must pray for that and keep praying for that. And let God handle what he can handle, and pray to God that this nation changes its course. I think from a faith perspective, by the way, be with us in our morning Bible study in the morning as we talk about faith on the Faith Network. Things are getting late. Things are getting late. Both on the time clock of history, but also on the time clock of this nation. I'll say it again, folks. Empires of the past that are come and gone now, they're just a byword of history. You say them and you say those nations in past tense sentences. They did far less evil to be destroyed inwardly than what we're doing tonight. Far less. No nation can survive what we're doing. No nation can survive what we're doing. And we've all failed. It ain't one group that's failed. We've all failed. We've all failed. It's easy to put the blame on a group. That's easy. Maybe that's why God ain't moving, because we're worried about who's to blame. Maybe we need to take a look at ourselves. Take a look at our own hearts. Take a look at our own hearts. Maybe that's what he's waiting for. Because maybe if we would take a look at ourselves, we would see the fact that this nation's a reflection of us. This nation is a reflection of us. Sadly. I pray for my country. I'm with Eric Caron tonight. We don't want to see war. We don't want to see our nation go down. I've been on this network for 6.5 years, every night, fighting for this nation, fighting to bring people on, to keep you informed of what's happening and to encourage you every night. Every night. We've been on here. There's been very few nights other than times we've been sick or just needed to take a break. And you know, I don't keep count of the shows, but I know that we're approaching at least 2,000 shows, 2,500 shows over 6 years, 6.5 years. It's not too bad. Not too bad for an old Southern boy. And we're going to keep doing it until we're either 6 feet under or I hear the trump. But maybe we need to take a look at ourselves. Maybe it's us. And if we'll do that, then maybe in the quietness of that moment, God can speak to our hearts. And we can find our way out of this darkness as a nation and together. Because we got to find a way out soon. Just a thought. Just a thought. Did you enjoy Eric Caron tonight? Put some fire in that house tonight. We're always grateful for him. Now listen, right now, as of right now, we're not going to be on tomorrow night. We'll be on in the morning on the Faith Network. Now I may change my mind. And I've been known to change my mind. So if I pop up with a cowboy hat on or or We the People shirt, then you'll know that we're going to have a Friday night show. Now, if we do have a Friday night show, it's going to be your show tomorrow night. We'll probably just take questions and take your comments and let you rant and rave out there. But if we don't see you tomorrow night, I'll see you Monday night here on the News Network. And we got Carl and Nicole, Culture of Life, coming back. We probably have a late show Monday night with a special guest. And then Tuesday night, we're going to try to get Brad Johnson. He had a little boo-boo tonight, a little blip, and couldn't make it. So maybe Brad will be back with me Tuesday. And we got some other guests coming next week. Christopher Hall, Holly Pevek. Who else we got coming? Some guy by the name of Christopher McDonald. Oh, that's right. I'm the host. That's me, isn't it? So I'll be here too. I hope you have a great week, folks. It's good to be back with you. We hope you've enjoyed Eric Care tonight. I hope you enjoyed him. I sure did. And we love you guys. The opinions that we express are ours. And the tears we shed are ours too. For our nation and for you. And your children and my children. We love you tonight, folks. Pray for your country. Pray for your country. Don't lose faith out there. Do not get cynical. That's what the devil wants. That's what these forces of darkness want. Do not give in to the cynicism. Fight for America. It's worth fighting for. Your families are worth fighting for. The faith that we hold dear is worth fighting for. Freedom is worth fighting for. Because I will tell you this, folks, as we close. Once we lose it, we can't get it back. It's easier to fight for it now while we got it than to just give up and say, well, we'll let them have it and we'll get it back later. You won't get it back later. Ask the communists. Ask the communists and the people under the jake-booted heels of communism and Nazism what happened to them when they lost theirs. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed out there. And I will see you in the morning on the Faith Network, maybe tomorrow night on the News Network, but we'll definitely see you back here Monday night. Same bat time, same bat channel. And until then, McDonald out on a Monday. By the way, I want to thank our dear folks from Who'sYourWarriorCoffee.com. Great company in Indiana, combat veteran-owned company in Brownsburg. Their coffee is roasted, shipped once an order is placed, and this ensures the customers receive the freshest coffee, and a portion of every sale of the coffee helps the network keep going here. And there's the code and also the website, who'syourwarriorcoffee.com/McFiles, not the McFiles. You just have to put McFiles in, and it will take you to a website that you can get some great coffee and support a good show. The McFiles. And we appreciate you being with us tonight. Until either tomorrow night or Monday, have a good night, everybody. Be blessed. Good night.